Yo, what's up everyone? It's me again, back with another Path of Exile video, and if you follow PoE builds at all, you'll know that there is a new archetype that is becoming very popular, and it is the Forbidden Rite of Soul Sacrifice Whispers of Infinity archetype. And this is a new build that's possible this league with that amulet, and I just wanted to give it a try, and I built a character around it. And it was so overpowered that I really felt like I had to make a video like as soon as possible about it. So this is my Forbidden Rite of Self-Sacrifice Poison Occultist build. And I'm gonna be real, I played SSF for like 6,000 hours, but this is probably the most overpowered build I've ever played, ever. It's stronger than Archmage pre-nerf. It clears better than it is a single target better than it. It is a completely insane build. So if you're looking for a build to play, I definitely recommend that you play this build if you're looking for a build to play in SSF. So yeah, I was able to take down, three Ubers. I killed Eater, I killed Exarch, I also killed Cortex with this build. T17s are super easy on this build. It's very tanky. Has insane auto-targeting and explodey coverage. It's completely insane. And it's also very fast for T16 as well. Here I have like some Uber Cortex footage as well. Just the build is honestly incredible. The defense, offense, clear, and speed is all very high. And so yeah, in this video, I just wanted to share with you guys my version of this archetype. I was looking around on YouTube and I just didn't see too many SSF-viable versions of this build. Basically, everyone's playing this build in trade and not too many people are like making SSF videos about it. So in this video, I wanted to share with you guys my SSF-viable version of this archetype. It can do all Ubers. It can do, T17s. It can basically farm any content because the mechanics are so good. It auto-targets and explodes the whole screen. It's a completely ridiculous build, so yeah, I just want to share this build guide with you guys. Yeah, that's basically it. Okay, so diving into the build itself. Before we get started, we need to talk very quickly about mechanics and why this is good. So the main combo is Forbidden Rite of Soul Sacrifice, Whispers of Infinity. And the main idea is that there is a gem called Forbidden Rite of Soul Sacrifice, and this is a gem that converts your energy shield to chaos damage at a very high amount, but the downside is that it costs life. And normally that would just make you die, but with Whispers of Infinity, all of your costs are from energy shield. And as you can see, I'm casting this, and I'm basically not like losing any energy shield or mana. Yeah, that's basically it. This amulet makes all of your skills completely free, and it allows you to get the upside of Forbidden Rite of Soul Sacrifices damage while having no cost downside at all. And then of course, since you're CI, you don't actually take any damage from the skill itself. So it's just completely insane. And yeah, that's the main idea of the skill. And then as for Forbidden Rite itself, Forbidden Rite is a skill that naturally just shoots out one projectile like this. And if there is an enemy nearby, I killed all these enemies for testing. But yeah, basically you can shoot a projectile and it'll like, oh, my Merc is killing everything. But anyway, you shoot a projectile and then it shoots more projectiles at nearby targets. As you can see, you don't have to aim. You can like aim backwards and it'll auto target the ones everywhere. So mechanically speaking, it's very good. And then if you put on Greater Volley, which is considered to be the meta optimal support, you get 4 additional projectiles, which allows you to shotgun more. And then you also get Spell Echo, so you can cast this twice. So your self-cast makes 10 projectiles, and then the auto-targeting is like 9 additional projectiles. And according to people in the community, the amount of overlaps that you get with one cast is roughly equal to 4 or 5, depending on like how much AoE you get, I suppose. So in this build, I just assumed in my POV that you get 5 overlaps per cast, and that's the main idea of this build. And then before we talk about this build in particular, I want to also talk about like the main archetypes that I've seen floating around. So I've seen a couple archetypes. I've seen cast on crit, I've seen self-cast crit, and I've also seen like self-cast poison, which is what this build is. In my opinion, for SSF, self-cast poison is optimal, and I think it's optimal on Occultist and not Elementalist, although they're both very close. But I want to just explain like the pros and cons of each of these different avenues. So cast on crit is an archetype that obviously makes sense. You get a bunch of cast speed, or you get a bunch of casts from the triggers, and then if you go cast on crit, you can like play Occultist, and you go Forbidden Power, you get AoE, you get crit, you have skill crit, and it's pretty straightforward. But I'm not a big fan of cast on crit builds in general, because first of all, you have to skill accuracy, which is really annoying. And also, if you play cast on crit, you probably play Cyclone, and Cyclone moves very slow, and I'm just overall not a big fan of it. I think the cast on crit archetype is very slow and difficult to build and not optimal, so that's why I stayed away from it. There's also another archetype which is self-cast crit, and I'm also not a big fan of this for one main reason, which is that it's very difficult to scale hit-based crit. You don't really have a big 50% aura that makes your damage go up in the same way that poison builds can use malevolence to get a huge amount of scaling. So I just think poison is a lot easier to scale, and so I chose to go poison for this build. There is also a way to build this with Elementalist, although it's important to note that if you go Elementalist, you are forced to play poison because you want to make use of the golem that gives you 64 dot multi. But I think Elementalist is worse than Occultist in SSF for a couple reasons. The main reason is that you waste a lot of the stuff that Elementalist gives you. The overall damage is the same between the Golem and Shaper of Storms, but like you're a Chaos build, and Chaos builds naturally get 90% increased damage taken from Wither, so like scaling Shock is just not that efficient. In addition, you waste a lot of the Golem buffs if you play Elementalist as well. For example, mana regen does nothing. Health regen, you can convert to ES regen with Zealot's Oath, but it's just not necessary because you have so much energy shield, leech, and regen, and recharge anyway that it just doesn't really matter. And then the defense that Elementalist Shaper of Flames gives you is good, but it's not better in my opinion than the flat energy shield that Occultist gives you from the new Val Bastion, which is extremely efficient. Basically, 75% spell block is 75% increased energy shield. So in my opinion, Occultist is just more natural to build around, and you can also use Profane Bloom. If you play Elementalist, you cannot use Profane Bloom, and you have to use Obliteration if you want to clear, and Obliteration is really shitty for this build because you're not base Fizz damage, so Obliteration gives you no damage in mapping, and then your damage will be low and you'll be sad. So in my opinion, Occultist is way easier and more fun to build in SSF, at least. That's just my personal opinion. And then of course I think poison is better than hit based because of easier scaling from like malevolence. So my choice for the Forbidden Rite of Soul Sacrifice Whispers of Infinity combo is poison self-cast Occultist. So that's why I decided to go with this build. Okay, so now that we have talked about that, we can just go ahead and get into the POB. So I'm just gonna try to give like a quick overview of the POB. Let's just start at the numbers, I guess, or the config. So it's generally considered that if you have enough AoE, you will have like 5 projectiles overlap per cast. That's why I have count equals 5 here. And then that's how you calculate the damage of this. And then it's just Shaper DPS, 15 Wither. That's basically it. Nothing too fancy. And then as for the build itself, the numbers are actually extremely good. As for defense, you have 11,000 pool, and this is like low end as well. Like none of my gear has like T1 or T2. It's all like T3. So you could easily get like 13,000, 14,000 ES on this build with better gear. So the defenses is extremely good. And a large part of that is carried by Occultist's new Vile Bastion Ascendancy node. And then in addition, you have a lot of ways to sustain this. You have a large amount of energy shield leech from this wheel here. You have regen from Vile Bastion and also from the energy shield mastery. And then you also have a huge amount of recharge, which is actually pretty fast because you have, arcane focus. Your amulet gives you recharge. And I also got recharge on my body armor, which is not mandatory, but it does help a lot. So like in this build, the ES recharge begins in 1 second and it goes at 6,000 recharge per second. So it's like super good. And let me just like pull up some random video here where I do Exarch. And there was like a clip where I just like ran into a lot of balls. I just like tanked a bunch of balls and it was totally fine here. So like the defenses is extremely good. You can just tank everything. This is Uber as well. As you can see, you tank a ball, no problem. Wait 1 second. The ES goes up at a speed of 6,000 per second. And then you also have Val Discipline to press as well, which gives you 6,000 recovery per second for 4 seconds because this build scales skill effect duration. And yeah, basically this energy shield pool is very good. And then you also have very good avoidance. Being Occultist, Vile Bastion lets you build spell block very efficiently. So you have 78% spell block and then 63% attack block. And then I also run a ES on block shield, which allows you to recover a huge amount of ES every time you block. So it's very good avoidance, very good recovery. And then as for physical mitigation, you also have a pretty good amount of that as well, interestingly enough, on an Occultist. And because you are CI on this build, you can go ahead and get implicits on your helmet and body armor, which gives you a total of 18% PDR because you don't take any chaos damage. So that's really good. And then on top of all that, you have Flesh and Stone. And Flesh and Stone in Sand Stance allows you to take 19% less damage from enemies in an aura, which has a radius of that big, which is a pretty big radius actually. So it's pretty good. And so you have a pretty good amount of mitigation as well. And then on top of all of that, in this build, my Merc has Enfeeble on hit via Glove Corruption and also Temporal Chains as a skill. So the enemy is going to move really slow and not hit for that much damage. So as you can see, very good HP pool, very good recovery, very good avoidance, and also a very good amount of mitigation as well. And then on top of all that, CWDT Immortal Call. So very good defenses. I was just able to like walk through Exarch balls and basically tank a lot of stuff in Ubers, which is really strong. And so yeah, the defenses on this build is like some of the best defenses I've ever seen. And then moving on to offense, the main scaling is just poison. So it's chaos poison, and we get 100% poison chance by taking this wheel, running Herald of Agony, and then you have 2 medium cluster jewels here with septic spells, and that allows you to get 100% chance to poison with spells. So that's very good. And then just take a bunch of chaos stuff and get a bunch of damage that way, which is good as well. And then the rest of the tree is basically just ES and then block, and that's it. Very straightforward. Poison chance, chaos damage, energy shield, block, and that's it. Another cool thing to mention is that this build is 100% ailment immune, and this is done via this new cluster here. This new cluster, Harsh Lessons, gives you 20% reduced duration of ailments, and this is really strong because if you have this, and then you have 25% on Arcane Sanctuary, and then you have 25% on one cluster jewel that is block type, and then you have this wheel over here, Anointed Flesh, the result is that you can achieve with just those 4 things 100% reduced ailment duration, which gives you complete ailment immunity. And as you can see here, you know, you're immune to shock, you're immune to everything. And then even if you're on like shocked ground, 100% reduced ailment duration will make you immune. And then being CI, you're of course immune to poison and you're immune to all of those things. You can also then take Ralakesh Pantheon to be immune to bleeds, but I chose to go Tukohama for more PDR. And then also being Occultist, you are immune to stun right off the bat, which is another choice to go Occultist, another reason. So you're basically immune to everything. Ailments, poisons, stun, everything you're just like immune to. It's extremely good. And yeah, that basically covers everything on the tree. And then moving on to the gear, I'm going to talk about the Merc at the end of the video, but I just want to talk about the gear real quick. So this is the gear for the build. The only mandatory thing is Whispers of Infinity and then 2 medium clusters with septic spells. Ideally, they're 4 to 5 passive with septic spells +1. But yeah, you just need 2 of these with septic spells to cap your poison chance. And then you just need Whispers so you can literally play the build. Everything else can just be thrown together and it'll still be very strong. But I'm going to go over like every item and also like how you might craft it in SSF. So I'll just start at the top. So for the weapon, and it might be easier to do this in the in the game actually. So yeah, so this weapon is just going to be a profane wand. The way to craft this is actually super easy. All you have to do is alt spam it for cast speed and then multi-mod chaos.multi and then chaos damage and skill effect duration. The total cost of this craft is like 2 divines for multi-mod and then like 5 seconds of alt spamming for the T1 cast speed. It's very easy. And one cool thing about Forbidden Rite of Soul Sacrifice is that it scales based off your ES. So like increasing the gem level by 1 does give you a little bit of damage. As you can see here, if I +1 the gem level, we go from 22.4 mil to 23 mil. So like every gem level is like 600k DPS, but since most of the scaling is energy shield, getting gem levels is not that important. And for that reason, you don't really need to get like +1 chaos gems on this. Although if you wanted to get super optimal, what you would do is like recombinate a wand, which has like T1 cast speed, +1 chaos, +1 all, and then finish with the multi-mod like this. But it's totally overkill and you don't need to do that. You don't need to get the plus gem levels at all. It's way more important for you to get the T1 cast speed and then just finish with the multi-mod. Super easy. There is a wand that gives you like more projectiles. I can't remember the name of it, but you can just watch like some Trade League dude's video. There's like a wand that gives you like more projectiles, which allows you to do like more shotgunning, which is probably optimal. But like a wand like this is still really good. And then Profane Wand is the base you want to use for the cast speed. And then the quality, ideally you use Harvest and make it cast speed, but whatever. And then the shield is just this. I highly recommend running a Shaper shield with ES on block. That allows you to get really good recovery and allows you to like tank a lot of small hits really well. And I would also recommend, in addition to that Shaper mod, that you roll a shield with increased chance to block. And this is really important because it gives you attack block, and it's very difficult to get attack block in this build. So definitely try to get a Shaper shield with those 2 mods, ES on block and then chance to block. And then moving on to the 4 body armor pieces, or the 4 main armor pieces, is just whatever is the most optimal ES base. So Warlock Gloves, Warlock Boots, Twilight Regalia, and Lich's Circlet. And the main story here is you just want to go for ES and res. It's very straightforward. Just big energy shield and big res is good. And then you can also sneak in like a couple mods on some specific items as well. For the gloves, you really want to craft projectile speed. There's 2 things that this build really wants, which is like pretty known in the community, which is number 1 is AoE and number 2 is projectile speed. The more AoE, the more shotgunning you are going to have. And then the more projectile speed, the better the clear is going to feel. So here, In my build, I actually wasn't able to find like any projectile speed at all, and that's because this is a poison build, so it's very hard to get projectile speed. So I just decided to craft projectile speed on my glove. That is my only source of it, but it's enough. It feels good enough for mapping, so we just have this. But very important to try to craft that projectile speed on the glove if you can. On the body, you also can roll faster start of energy shield recharge. Not necessary, but it does make the build feel a little bit better. And then on boots, I think it's a pretty good spot to get onslaught. If you don't get it, it's not a big deal, but it does help out with mapping, and it means that you don't have to run a jade flask. A silver flask, so it's just good. And then helmet is just whatever. And then for the Eldritch Implicits here, a lot of these are like, there is like one that is optimal to get. So for the gloves, getting 15% chance to poison is very important. You get this with the level 3 blue thing. It's very important because if it's not 15% exactly, it's very difficult to cap poison, hit a chance to poison. And so I really do recommend getting the 15%. If you don't have it, you kind of have to anoint Toxic Strikes instead of as the mountain. Toxic Strikes anointment will give you 15% chance to poison, so that helps you hit cap. But if you have 15% on your gloves, you can anoint something else. I anoint as the mountain for more attack block, but you could also anoint Fatal Toxins if you wanted to go maximum damage. So, and I have all this in the notes as well, the viable anointments. So yeah, that's that. But yeah, 15% chance to poison, really good. And then if you get Chaos Multi, it's also really good. I definitely prefer like the bonuses to like offensive stats while a unique or pinnacle is in your presence, because you know the build's pretty fine for mapping, but like in pinnacle content is where you want the maximum damage. So I really like those, you know, while XYZ is in your presence mods. And then for body armor, you can get 11% taken as chaos, and on the helmet you can get like 7% taken as chaos as well. And because you're CI, you don't take that damage, so it's just 18% PDR. And then on the other one on the body, you can get chaos damage, and on the helmet you can get cast speed, which is really good. And then on the boots, just action speed, poison, damage faster, pretty straightforward. And then for the belt is even more straightforward. Just get a crystal belt, and then whatever you have on it is good. If you can, it's good to get a crystal belt with like dexterity and /or strength, because this build does kind of need attributes. So yeah, dexterity, strength, energy shield, all good. Crystal belt is optimal base. If you had defensive catalysts, you would use them here as well. I was too lazy to farm them, so whatever. And then so for the rings, the most optimal ring for this build is the new one, Betrayal Sting. This is really good because it is basically 34% more damage with poison. In my case, you can even get it up to 40% if you had like a 40% one. And it's just extremely good. Like 40% more damage with poison is completely insane for a ring slot. And because you don't need to build like suppression or anything, you can just very easily overcap your res. Like in my build, I'm like super overcapped and it's like totally good. I can basically do like a quick swap on single target like this. I'm still res capped and I got like 40% more damage with poison. This ring drops from one of the new bosses, one of the new pinnacle bosses. Can't remember which one, but it's pretty common. So, you know, I would definitely use this if you have it. It is not mandatory though. If you don't have this, I would just use an Iolite ring with Chaos Catalysts. And there's 3 mods that can give you a lot of damage on that, which I have in my notes section. You can either use Essence Chaos Damage, or Essence Cast Speed, or Essence.multi. You just want to get an Iolite ring with as much damage as possible, and that would be your optimal ring if you did not have Betrayal Sting. I did not drop a single Iolite ring this league. I think my loot filter may be bugged. So I just have this random 2-stone ring, which is definitely not optimal, but whatever. Another thing to note about the ring slot is that this build, being an occultist, you really want to get a ring with Curse on Hit for mapping. Not on single target, but only mapping. In my case, I have a Mark of Submission, which is a pretty common drop this league. You can get it like very easily, like from Mercs or just like a random drop. It's very common. I have like a Mark of Submission with like high level Despair. You also could use like a Hunter ring with like Despair on hit, or maybe even like a Temporal Chains on hit ring. I don't know if those even exist, but you just want to have some curse on hit to proc Profane Bloom, and then just swap it out on single target like this. Pretty straightforward. But you definitely want to get at least one curse on hit ring. If you really do not have a curse on hit ring, you have to run Blasphemy. And I have all this in the notes as well. The reason you don't want to run Blasphemy is, first of all, that means you don't get to run Discipline, which is not the biggest deal because like Discipline is only giving us like 10.5 to 11.3k ES. So it's only 800 ES. You could replace Discipline with Blasphemy, but obviously you would rather have Discipline for the defensive layer and also Val Discipline. But if you really did not have a curse on hit ring, you should replace Discipline with Blasphemy, like Temporal Chains, I think, and then Selfcast Despair or something, because you really want enemies to be cursed so you can proc Profane Bloom. But optimally speaking, you would get your curse on hit on a ring, either Influence Ring or Mark of Submission. You can also get curse on hit gloves, but it's not optimal because then you're missing out on like a lot of stats. So yeah, definitely try to get curse on hit ring. And that basically covers all the gear. And then for the clusters, you kind of do run out of things to scale on the tree. So one cluster setup is definitely recommended. The mandatory thing is 2, 4, or 5 passive medium clusters with chaos damage over time, with septic spells +1 to help you cap poison chance. The other one doesn't really matter, just whatever else is good. If you have like a 6 passive, it's not optimal, but it's fine as well. And then you also really want one small cluster that is either block attack or spell damage, ideally 2 passive, so you can get flexible sentry to help you get 100% ailment avoidance, basically. Attack block is optimal because it's a lot harder to get attack block than spell block, but spell block is fine too. And then 3 passive is kind of suboptimal, but whatever. And then for the large, it should just be ideally 8 passive, 8 passive skills, 3 notable, large chaos cluster. Ideally, you would have like cast speed with chaos spells on it as well, but it's pretty hard to craft like an optimal one of these in SSF, so just 2 passive is fine as well. You can just like chaos spam this one or use fossils. I think I used fossils to get this. Could also harvest Reforged Chaos or speed, but it's kind of expensive. Also these mediums and the small one, you just all spam and it's just whatever. It's not too difficult to farm this. Just farm Delirium for a day, fully spec'd on Atlas, and you should get that. Pretty straightforward. And then for the flasks, I just have this. I have a life flask just for like CB and bleed immune. That's the only reason that's there. Quartz flask for more movement smoothness. Quicksilver flask for movement speed. I have a Roomies here because it does help a lot with block. Like my block right now is like 63. If I press Roomies, it's like 71. So it helps a lot. If you don't have a Roomies, no big deal. Just use whatever. Silver flask, jade flask, gold flask, armor flask, doesn't really matter. And then the last one is kind of like a flexible slot. You can basically run whatever you want. I just have a gold flask so I can get more gold. That's basically it though. And like in bossing, I just replaced this with like whatever elemental flask the boss has a damage type of. But yeah, it's whatever. The main idea is that Roomies is good if you have it. If you don't have it, whatever. That's about it for the gear. And then I have like all these notes here if you want to check them out as well. Single target, betrayal, sting, or DPS ring swap, curse on hit stuff, viable annoyance, and then just a quick note for like character leveling. So I'm actually not too sure how to level this character. I kind of respect into it, but the main idea is at level 74, you can equip Whispers of Infinity, and that allows you to play the build. And like before that, I think you just play whatever. Maybe you just level with like Elementalist. I think optimally you level as like whatever is the optimal elementalist leveling skill. And then at level 74, you respec into this build. And definitely do not league start this because you need Whispers of Infinity to play this build at all. So do not league start this. Only play this as a second build. And if you play it as second build, you should probably have like enough respecs to like level with whatever you want and then respec at level 74. And that's the main idea of the build. Everything else is pretty straightforward, you know. You can check out the links here, just a Wither Totem for Wither application. Automation, Blood Rage, just for mapping and Frenzy charges. Turn it off for a single target. Movement, just Shield Charge and Frost Blink. Everything else is just whatever. And that's basically it for the gear. Okay, now onto the most exciting section, the Merc. So this is a cool build because the Merc actually gives you so much power in this build. It's really cool. The main idea is that you want a Merc that has Malevolence, and you just stack a bunch of Malevolence aura effect on the Merc, and that increases your damage tremendously. I have the Merc enabled in my config, but I'll just show you like what the Merc does. So here is my Merc. This is Gratha Parnis, the Wither Touch, level 83 int Merc. And once again, the main idea is that you want to Merc with Malevolence, and then you scale Malevolence aura effect. And this Merc is also really cool because it has temporal chains. And if the Merc has temporal chains, that means I don't need it myself. So I can like save a lot of skill points that would ordinarily go into like Whispers of Doom, right? And the main idea here is that with this setup, my curse limit is 1. I only cast Despair. And then the Merc's curse limit is 3 from double Doeater's Damning Rings. And the Merc is casting Temporal Chains and Enfeeble on hit on the glove, which is completely optional. And then I'm casting Despair. And because of this, the party curse limit is 3. And so the Temporal Chains, the Enfeeble, and the Despair all go on the target. So I have like Tri-Curse, which is like really good, and they all benefit my build a lot. Despair is very offensive, Temporal Chains makes poison deal more damage, and Enfeeble is just for survivability. And then that's basically the curse setup. And then for the main thing, which is Malevolence, we have a body armor like this, which is just double implicits that scale Malevolence aura effect. And this Wither Touch Merc is able to use staffs. So we have Dying Breath. Dying Breath gives an additional 18% Malevolence effect, makes enemies take 18% increased effective curses, and also increases my damage by 18% as well. Super optimal, and this is pretty common as well in SSF. It's a very common unique, and it's super good on the Merc. And then the belt is, of course, meta Chaos Binding, which I forgot to talk about earlier, but it's just a little bit more PDR for your build. Pretty good. And you're also immune to Ignite on this build, so you don't have to worry about that. These boots are just whatever, sapped ground, not the biggest deal, it's just whatever. And then this amulet. So this amulet I discovered is actually really optimal for this build. You could also use Perquil's Toe, but I think this one's a lot better. And the reason is because this amulet gives 15% Culling Strike, basically turning your Merc into a mini Slayer. And it does definitely work. And the reason it works is that if the Searing Exarch is dominant, then you will kill enemies that have 15% or lower life. And it's pretty easy to get this as well. You just play a bunch of Exarch maps, kill Black Star, drop it, easy. And it's just super good. If you didn't have this, I'm honestly not really too sure what you would run. If you didn't have this, you probably run Warlord Gloves with 10% Cull and just forget about the Enfeeble. Or you just run like Perquil's Toe, as whatever. But if you have this 15% Cull amulet, it's super optimal. And then Helmet is just Leercast, giving you 50% increased damage. And that's basically the Merc setup. And the summary of the benefits of the Merc is this: 15% Cull, Malevolence with huge effect. In this case, 50% increased Malevolence effect. And I did some testing, And it does seem like Mercs have like level 26 versions of skills at level 83. And the reason I know this is because I tested out Hatred, Purity of Ice, and Flamelink, and all of those had level 26 values. So I would assume that this Temporal Chains and this Malevolence is also a level 26 version. So that's why I have in the PoB level 26. And Feeble is Curse on Hit, so it's level 1. So yeah, very good. And then just, Leercast, Cam's Binding, and then Betrayal Sting, the mod doesn't work, so I just have it here. And that's basically the impact of the Merc. This Wither Touch Merc is extremely good. It also incidentally does like a little bit of damage as well. Not that much, but like it does enough to like clear trash like mobs. This is like a level 61 area, so maybe not the best showcase, but like the Merc has like Bane and like Essence Drain and Scour Storm, which is like a Righteous Fire kind of thing. And as you can see, like I'm not doing anything, and the Merc actually has like a fair amount of damage. I'm not doing anything here. So yeah, pretty good. I mean, it doesn't do that much damage on single target, but like it does clear like trash mobs. So, not complaining. And yeah, that's basically it. I think we covered the build. I think we covered the PoB and the Merc as well. Overall, this is a completely ridiculous build in my opinion. I'm so happy I played this build. I'm so happy various people theory crafted this build as well. And I just wanted to give my contribution to the community, which is an SSF-viable way to play this build using Occultist and Poison scaling, which I do believe is optimal for SSF. It's very easy to scale. It's very easy to put this together. All you need is Whispers of Infinity and Forbidden Rite of Soul Sacrifice, and that's it. And you can basically have a completely overpowered build that destroys all content. And yeah, if you're looking for a new build to play in SSF that's like different from the meta, I highly recommend that you play this build. And yep, that's going to be it for me for this video. I will link the PoB in the description, and let me know if you have any like comments or questions, whatever, concerns about the build. I'll try to answer them. And yeah, and as a random note, now that we're at the end of the video, I wish I could have been streaming more, but I did unfortunately run into a random dental issue, which I am going to get resolved tomorrow, but it is like very painful for me to talk right now. I don't know if you can tell. I probably should not even be recording this video, but I needed this video to go out as soon as possible because I think this build's really good. But yeah, I had a random dental issue, so that's why I haven't really been streaming. But once I get it fixed, hopefully tomorrow, I will try to get back to streaming as soon as everything heals up. So yeah, thank you guys all for your patience, and